So you've been interested in learning about AI agents, but feel super overwhelmed and just don't know where to start. There's a lot of stuff out there right now, and some just looks overly complicated. And if you're just diving into this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get started with an AI agent, something super simple so that you can really understand and grasp the concepts of how they work and how the tools all come together. In case you're new here, my name's Justin. I help people buy back their time and leverage the power of AI to make more money. Now, as we walk through this, I'm going to show you how to set up this basic and straightforward email agent. But what I want you to take from this video is the ability to go through this and understand why all of these pieces are the way they are and why they connect and how they work, so that at the end of this, you can see truly what is possible, but also you now have a foundational understanding of how you can put this stuff together so that you can now take your ideas and start to build them all out. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly how this thing works, and then we're going to get into building it together. So first of all, this is an AI email agent that is going to check your contact list and send the email once you have approved it. So what we're going to do now is quickly say, hey, can you ask Luke if he's performing this weekend? Okay, so now the AI agent is going to search our contacts and draft an email for us. And now what's going to happen is it's going to ask us if we want to make any changes or if we're good with that. So let's say, as we see this response, hi Luke, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to check in and see if you're performing this weekend. And I'm going to say yes. Let's send it. So now what's going to happen is the AI agent is going to go back in, confirm the information that we have, and then send the draft email. So now what we can do is we can actually go over to our Gmail and we can refresh and we can check the email that's been sent. And now what we see is that email has been sent to Luke Combs, exactly outlining the same email that we proofread a minute ago. So let's dive in. Let's start to build this. Let's do it completely from scratch so you can understand exactly what is going on here. So first things first, if you are brand new to n8n, this is an awesome software to build automations, workflows, AI agents, and what I'm doing in this particular tutorial and walkthrough is I'm using the free trial. I want you to see that you can do this on the free trial. You can try this out for 14 days. And if you are really taking to this, really enjoying what you're doing, then you can make the decision of whether or not to upgrade. But I also wanted to show you that all the tools we're using, all of the capabilities, everything works on the free plan. So let's dive in. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go and create a workflow. So once you log in, you're going to come to your home screen and you can click Create Workflow. From here, we get a blank canvas. Now, the nice thing with n8n is you can start with templates. There are templates built that you can reference, but I want to show you how to build this completely from scratch. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up a trigger. Now, a trigger inside of any automation software is the thing. It's the action that happens in order to kick off the workflow. Now, one of the really nice things about n8n is that they have a built-in chat message trigger. So when we add the chat message trigger, what happens is we now have a chat window pop up at the bottom of the screen. This allows us to directly send a message in. Now, nothing is going to happen because there's nothing else connected, but you can see that when we press into the chat and when we send a message, you can see this goes green and automatically starts to fire. So we have our very first trigger set up and we are well on our way. The next thing you're going to see here is we have the plus icon connected to the trigger. So once the chat message happens, what happens next? You're going to see a list of all the tools, or at least the categories of tools on the right-hand side once it pops up. And there's a section called AI. Now, if we click into this, you can see we've got a ton of different options. And the very first one in the tools below the templates is our AI agent. So now what we're going to do is we are going to click to add our AI agent. Now, as you can see here, we are going to start to see some options popping up on screen for us. So now you can see on the left-hand side, we get to see basically a track record or a log of all of the information that's being passed, everything that happens in the previous steps in our workflow. So we can actually see the chat input message that was sent and the action that it came from, as well as the session ID, which we'll touch on in a second. Now, because this AI agent recognizes that the first trigger or the previous node was a chat message, it's automatically filling in the information here, which is the message that the AI agent is receiving. So for now, we're just going to leave that and expand on it in a second. Because now what we see is that we have three nodes, three little things that almost look like legs sticking out from the AI agent. We have our chat model, we have our memory, and we have our tools. So first and foremost, our chat model. What the chat model is what is the brain that we are connecting to our AI agent. So this is where we look at one of the large language models and how we connect them in. So in our case, what we are going to use is, you see, we have access to use a whole bunch, and I'm going to show you two of them, and one of them is OpenAI, which is the large language model behind ChatGPT. And I'm going to show you how to connect in your ChatGPT or your OpenAI account so that you can use the different ChatGPT models, okay? Then I'm going to show you something else that is super robust and gives you a ton of functionality, and it even gives you the ability to use some free large language models. So what we're going to do here is you are first going to click on the OpenAI chat model. Now, before I dive into that, I want to explain something. First thing that we need to do here is, if you just started your n8n account, you will actually be given some free OpenAI credits, which is nice. So you can use those. You could just start with that and use them, and that'll probably get you through a few tests. But what I want to show you is how to actually set up your own account here. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to Create New Credential. So now inside of a credential, what you need to do here is you need to get an API key. So in order to get that API key, what you need to do is you need to come to platform.openai.com. Now, once you've started your sign up, this is how your connection from OpenAI is going to be made with n8n. So once you create your initial account at platform.openai.com, you're going to fill out these next few steps. So in our case, we're going to say our organization name is just personal. We're going to create. Then we're going to not worry about inviting our team, so we're going to skip that. And we are going to want to make our first API call. So in this case, we're just going to say YouTube email test, and we can just leave the project as default unless you have a particular project name that you would like to use. For now, let's click Generate API Key. Now the next thing, excellent, there we go. So now we have our API key, which we can copy. And now what we're going to do is go back to n8n, and we are going to paste this in here. So now our API key has the value that we just copied and pasted. Now keep your API keys super secret. Don't share these with anybody. This is what actually allows people to access in to all of your information. We are going to press save, and the connection tested successfully. Now, what we need to do next, if we go back to our platform.openai, we are going to hit continue. Now, this is something that I want everyone to know. You do need to pay for credits, and what they're called as tokens, inside of the OpenAI platform. If you have a paid ChatGPT account, that is not the same thing. They are different. One thing that's really nice about when you pay for your API credits or your tokens is they cost a fraction of a penny per token, so it actually takes quite a while to use your OpenAI tokens. Now, that is also dependent on your usage levels and the large language model that you actually select. But for the majority of people, this is going to be a very, very, very minimal number of tokens used. So what I mean by that, you can add $5 of credits, and that will probably last you for a month or more, of course, depending on your usage. So for right now, for this example, because I have another account connected in, I'm going to say I'll buy credits later. But if you do not have any credits here, you're going to want to purchase. Now, I am going to show you, like I said, one other way that you can actually use these agents without paying for your large language models. Okay, so we are saying that we are going to buy credits later. Now, in our case, we've already connected that OpenAI key, so there's nothing for us left to do except actually buy credits and run. But what we're going to do is we are going to here is we are going to now run this as it's connected. So as I mentioned, I have another separate account that I copied and pasted the API key in. So now I have access to, in this particular case, ChatGPT 4o Mini. Now, as you can see, there are a ton of different GPT models in here. My recommendation is to stick with either 4o Mini, 4.0, the standard 4.0, or because they just added it in and it's definitely worth testing, would be 4.1. Now, what you will find is different models will have different responses. So part of going through your agent build is testing how the agents actually communicate with you based on your goals. Now, I know that's super vague, but depending on what you're doing, there are models that are going to perform better. My recommendation for most people is to stick with 4.0 or 4.1. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 4.1 for this example just because it's new and because why not? Let's try it. So here, we can even start to communicate with this. There's no instructions given to our AI agent, and we have our chat model connected, but nothing else. So let's test this out. Hey there. And you will see the AI agent starts to run, and then automatically will also call our OpenAI chat model, and we get a response. So you can see, hello, how can I help you? I'm building an AI agent demo. Say hi. And now, same thing. Hi, I'm excited to be part of your AI agent demo. How can I assist you today? Nothing needed yet. Thanks. Right, so you can see how now we are able to have a conversation. And this is already super basic. We have no initial build yet. So what we're going to do here is we can refresh this conversation. We can delete it, and this will allow us to start from scratch. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about memory. So what we can do with memory is we are essentially now able to give our AI agent a more enhanced brain so that it can remember the conversation as we go. Now, there are options for you to use memory. My recommendation when everybody begins is just use a simple memory that's built into n8n. Of course, at some point you can always expand on that and you can start to connect real databases. These are for more heavy duty lifting and more advanced agents. But for right now, we're just going to use the simple memory. So now from here, you will see that the context window length, and this right below says how many past interactions the model receives as context. I like to set this, again, depending on the usage and what our agent is actually tasked with, somewhere in the range of between 15 and 50. Because now what happens is every time we send a message, the simple memory will be able to go back and reference all of the previous messages that were sent. And it will reference the number of messages that we include in this context window length. So now what we can do, you know what? I'm going to show you a test. Let's delete the memory and I'll say, hi, my name is Justin. Okay, great. And then if I say, what's my name? You'll see now that the agent itself actually doesn't know because there is no memory associated with it. So when we don't have a memory connected, every single message or every single input that goes into the agent is essentially brand new and starts from scratch. But now the difference is if I connect our memory node again and I refresh this chat and say, hey, my name is Justin. And the AI agent says, nice to meet you. How can I help? And then I'll just say, do you remember my name? And now you'll see that it's going to check, the AI agent is going to check the simple memory again and say, yes, your name is Justin. How can I assist you? So now we can see even the difference in a conversation now that we have memory plugged in. So now we have our input, we have our agent set up, we have our large language model, and we have our simple memory. So now what we need to do is we need to give some sort of task. So what we really need to figure out here is what is this agent going to be doing? And in our case, we want this agent to essentially be our email assistant, our email pro. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the AI agent tool. And remember at the beginning, you can see here that we already have the chat trigger connected. So this information is automatically connected. As you can see here, the sourced for the prompt, which is the user message of the prompt, which is one piece of it, connected chat trigger node. Right? You can also define it below if you're using some other input or some other trigger in to start the agent. But for right now, that's all we're using. So we don't actually need to change anything. But what we want to do here is we want to come down to options and we want to click on add option. So now what we want to do is add a system message. So what we can see here is that the prompt or the user message is the input that comes in from our trigger, and the system message is now going to be the instructions that our AI agent has. So now it actually has information and context, and it knows what it's tasked with doing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy and paste a set of instructions that I have created, which will basically allow this AI agent to now understand what its role and purpose is. So my name's Justin. You're an AI assistant designed to help users compose and send, I'm going to change this, help me compose and send emails efficiently based on my text input. So basically what you're going to do now is follow this process. So we're giving a strict set of guidelines for the agent to follow, which is essentially get the message, see what I'm asking for, look up who it's going to, and then write me a draft. If I approve that draft, then go ahead and send it. So now all we have left to do before this agent is fully built is just connect the tools. So now what we're going to do is we're going to connect two tools. We're going to connect two Google tools, which make this connection pretty simple. The first one is going to be a Google Sheet. So now if you have not connected any credentials, all you need to do here is click this drop down and add new credentials. Now what's going to happen is this is going to pop up a login screen. So you're going to click sign in with Google. And from here, all you need to do is essentially just accept the terms and allow the capabilities for Google to connect into your n8n account. Now you can see account connected, all done. Great. So now what we're going to do is we have to find the sheet where we have all of our contact information, which in this case is just a simple contact list. So inside of this list, we have name and email for the people who we are going to be sending to. So as you can see, now that our Google Sheet is connected, our Google Sheets account is fully connected and set up, we are going to be looking for the sheet within document. Now, in terms of the tool description, you can manually set a description. So here's what I like to do. I like to set the exact purpose of why this tool is here in the description. So this tool is to reference my contacts and to access and retrieve their email addresses. Now, one thing that's really important about n8n versus other automation softwares is that the name that you use for the tool, as you can see here, this tool is now just called Google Sheets. The name for that tool is incredibly important because that's what the agent, along with your instructions, uses in order to know which tool does what. So for example, if we had multiple Google Sheet tools and they were all just called Google Sheets, even though they each have a different purpose, the agent won't know which one to use, even though we have given it some indication. We need to have it listed in our instructions, and we need to have it listed in the tool name. So I will call this contact information. And now what you'll see is inside of my actual prompt, I am also going to make sure that that matches. And I've just called it contacts here, so I'm going to call this contact information to make sure that it matches. So I will copy that, and because we're referencing it again here, and that should cover everything. So now we are referencing the contact information tool inside of the prompt, inside of our system message. And because our Google Sheets tool is called the same thing, now there's no confusion about where the agent needs to go in order to perform the certain action successfully. So now what we're going to do here, because there are two pieces of information missing, is we are going to just find the exact contact list file that we referenced. So we're going to search for contact list, and the sheet within that contact list is sheet 1. Excellent. We don't need to worry about any additional filters because we're not searching for any more. Great. So now we have one last piece to build out, and then that bonus tip that I have for you to get some free LLM usage. So we're going to add one more tool, and it is our Gmail tool. So the same thing applies. We need to log in the same way we did for Google Sheets. Just give a quick sign in, accept the permissions, press continue, and your account is now connected. So now that our account is connected, what we are going to do is we are going to change the name of this, just like we talked about, to send email. We're going to manually set our description. Once an email draft has been approved, use this tool to send the email to the recipient. So now, the resource we are looking for is message, because what we want to do is send a new message. That means our operation is going to be send. Now, n8n has this awesome function here, as you can see, because we also need to include a recipient, and we also need to include a subject line. So what we can do is we can set a fixed value. We could say info@test.com, and we could say, hey there. But the issue with this is now every email that goes through is going to send to info@test.com, and the subject line is going to be, hey there. But we know that that's not right. We need this to be a little bit more dynamic. Now, what we can do is we can set up certain variables so that when the recipient is selected based on what the user has asked for, that we set it to an expression where we actually input a variable. But again, that's also a little bit more complex and advanced and may not be necessary, because n8n has built an amazing feature where all we need to do is click on this little star button, and your recipient will now automatically be defined by the model or by the agent. And we're going to do the exact same thing for our subject line. So now, instead of actually having to figure that out ourselves, we don't need to. Now, there are instances in which it actually is beneficial to enter this in manually and for you to be strict about what the values are in the variables, but that's not this particular instance, so don't worry about that for now. Next, what we want to do is we want to set the email type. So now what we're going to do is we are going to set the email type to text. Now that we've set our email type to text, what we need to do is set the message. So now this is the actual body of the email that's being sent, and we're going to do the same thing. We are going to let the model define it. Now, the very last thing that we want to do here is we want to add our sender name. So sender name, we're going to say this is from Justin. And one more option that I like to add in there as well is I click add option and append n8n attribution. I turn that off, because if you don't turn that off, then at the bottom of that email will say something along the lines of this email was generated and sent by n8n, which is not what we want. So now we have all of our tools connected, which is our contact information and our send email. And we have our chat model connected, and we have our simple memory. So now what we can do is we can actually run and test this. Hey there, can you please send Morgan an email asking if he's free for lunch tomorrow? And this should execute successfully. So now coming back to us with our draft email. Hey Morgan, hope you're doing well. Are you free for lunch tomorrow? Let me know if you're available and what time works for you. Thanks, Justin. Perfect. That looks great. Let's send it. So now AI agent's going to go back in, confirm the contact information, and now execute and send that email. So if we go back, we should now see this message come through, because it should be sending to me, and there it is. Here is our email to Morgan, successfully sent by our n8n AI agent. So now you have successfully built your very first n8n AI agent. Now, the one extra piece that I'm going to show you to help you get some large language model usage for free is that if we go to the chat model, so I've disconnected and deleted the OpenAI chat model, what I'm going to do is click on this plus to replace it with something else. Now you see there are a ton of different options here, but there's one right here called OpenRouter chat model. Now OpenRouter is a service where you can essentially access all of the large language models all by using one API key. So you can connect one account and then access whatever large language model you want, instead of needing to individually connect large language models. So for example, if you wanted to switch between Claude's Anthropic or Anthropic's Claude or DeepSeek or Google Gemini and OpenAI, instead of connecting each one of those, so instead of having Claude here and Gemini and so on and so forth, what we can actually do is we can just connect OpenRouter. So now what we're going to do, if we are going to select our credential, same thing, we are going to create new credential. And again, we're going to need to get an API key. So once you have gone to OpenRouter.ai and created your own account, you are going to click on keys. Now from here, I am going to create an API key. So let's say YouTube email test, and we are going to create. Now we will copy our API key and we will go back into our workflow and we will paste it. So now I'll click save and you will see connection tested successfully. Great. So now what we can do is, just like before when we had OpenAI connected, we can actually just select the large language model that you want, and you will see that there are a ton of large language models. Now, the question is, how do we get that for free? Because not everything is free, but what you can see is that there are some large language models that actually give you access for free, and one of them is Google. Google's Gemini gives some of their large language models for free for testing purposes. And it's a great way to test. So what you can see here is, if you look, each of the models are listed individually, and there's a price for their output tokens. So you see 60 cents per million tokens. So like I said, super cheap for all these large language models when you use them through the API. What we're going to look for are the ones that have zero. You can see some are more expensive here, right? 2.5 flash preview is $3.50 per million, which makes a difference. Here we go. Google Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental, 0 per million tokens. Output tokens specifically. So we're going to look at Google Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental. So if we go back, let's search. One of the models that you can actually use for free that I like to test with is, if we go here, I've actually switched this now to Meta's Llama 4 Maverick. So again, depending on the actual LLM you're using, you're going to get some different responses, but this is definitely worth testing, and you can test it for free. So that's always really nice. So what we're going to do is, let's say, hey, can you please ask Tim if he's available for a jam session next week. And we can include the typos and all that, not a big deal. So here's what we need to see. I'll simulate, there we go. Perfect. So as you can see, there's a different response. We're using a different model, so the way that it actually communicates is a little bit different. Some models are better for drafting emails and better for communication. So by going through this experiment, you'll actually get a handle on how these different models are going to communicate with you. So for example, here we have, you can see that Llama is actually telling us what it's thinking more than just actually doing it. So here we go. Here is the email. Hey Tim, hope you're doing well. Was wondering if you're available for a jam sesh. So here you go. Is this draft okay with you, or would you like me to make any changes? No, that looks great. Let's send. Now we're going to see if this works. Perfect. So this is actually really interesting. We can see here that our model was called, our simple memory was called, and it said here that the email was sent. But look, our send email tool was actually not triggered. So we know that this was not sent at all. So if we actually go back to our email, we can see that our workflow was not actually completed. So now this is something that you might run into because you are using a free model, or again, some models are better for tool execution. So when you're actually coming to use when you actually come to build one of your agents, it's definitely recommended to use a more premium model, something that is paid, because now you know you're going to be getting reliable performance. And it's not to say that this can't be fixed. It probably can. You can probably change the prompting, but I always recommend put $5 into your OpenAI account on the platform.openai site and just see how far it goes. All right, guys, this has been the first walkthrough of creating super basic AI agents and understanding them at a fundamental level. So now you should be able to set this up and have a great foundational understanding of what AI agents can do. There is so much more that we'll dive into and expand on, but for now, that's it. Have a great day and good luck with your AI agents.